Well, my name is Erin Colburn, and I'm one of the academic advisors in the College of Health Sciences. My role is to serve students who are interested in a health studies degree, public health, or looking at one of the pre-health pathways, which would be something along the lines of wanting to go to medical school or PT school, dentistry. There's about 13 different pre-professional pathways that we assist with, but that isn't limited to just those. We have a lot of students who do different things, whether it's prosthetics or whether it's perfusion. So that list isn't limited, but it's quite large. And so we work with a lot of different students. And I'm going to introduce my co-hosts.
Hi everyone, my name is Mary Crowell. I'm the Director of the Student Services and Academic Advising Office, and welcome.
Hi, I'm Ian Taylor. I'm a peer advisor for the College of Health Science, and I'm a sophomore public health major.
Great. And so I'm just going to briefly show these are some really great websites to gain some information about our programs. Specifically, the pre-professional one is great for those pre-health pathways, but the advising office website also has a wealth of information in terms of what services we provide and assistance and all of our contact information. So now I'm going to turn the time over to all of you. If you could start putting your questions in the chat, we can get started and kind of roll through those. What I can express to you as you are thinking about what kinds of questions you might want to ask. Pre-health is not a bachelor's degree. So individuals who are seeking to want to go to medical school will not earn a Bachelor of Pre-Medical Studies from Boise State University. What you will do is if you are interested in these paths, you'll want to identify yourself by selecting one of the pre-health pathways. This allows us to interact with you as advisors and be able to assist you with the application process to apply to any of these professional schools. It also gives us the bandwidth to be able to let you know what is available to you in terms of experiences outside the classroom, which are extremely important for a lot of these professional schools. They want you to gain experience outside the classroom. They want you to be a well-rounded applicant. And so we provide a lot of information via email or workshops and sessions, services that we provide, academic advising in terms of required courses that might be needed for some of these programs. And so we use that to assist you in your process to be able to register and apply all of the things that you need before you get ready to apply to those schools. So the pathway is important for that because it gives you some of that assistance. Ultimately, you'll choose a bachelor's degree in something, and we will facilitate and collaborate with your major advisor depending on what you select, and we can kind of go through some of those steps. But it does look like we have some questions to start the process. Okay.
Yes, so it looks like Alyssa asks, how do I select a pre-med, oh, am I in the right? Oh, yep. How do I select a pre-med pathway? I've already declared a biology major, Spanish minor.
So if you're already admitted to Boise State University or are either coming in the fall or summer semesters, just send an email to us and we will get you designated as a pre-med pathway. So if you send me the email, I'm more than happy to put you in there. If you haven't applied yet to Boise State University, when you apply on our application, you can select more than one area. You can select a biology major if that was what you wanted to major in. And then you can also select a secondary plan, which would be a health-related field, and pre-med is one of those options. Great question. So I'm going to try and generate some other questions that might come up. So one of the things that often gets asked to me is, well, what's the best major to going to medical school or going to any of these pathways? And the answer is there isn't a right or a wrong bachelor's degree. There isn't a best. I think there is a best for you. Interestingly enough, you want to factor in all the things that play into your path. Efficiency. Hey, I don't want to be here forever and ever, Erin. What kind of a degree should I choose that would be efficient towards my path? 2, what are you passionate about? Do something you really enjoy. My experience has been that students that do what they're passionate about tend to do better. I also think that students should focus on what if. What if I get to OChem and I go, oh my gosh, this is killing me. I don't want to do this anymore. And so what I would say is that we really want students to think about multiple paths. And so we call it a parallel plan, that you might be choosing a bachelor's degree in something that would spin off if you decided not to go to dentistry or PA school or whatever it is. So, and the sky's the limit. I've actually had 6 music majors go to medical school. I've had engineering majors go. I've had PT students who are business majors and dental students. So there isn't a right or a wrong. And I also think that's really important that students be aware that their degree isn't what's going to limit their ability to be able to get into one of these pathways. Most of the programs I advise for in this group have considerable latitude when it comes to what degree. And it looks like we have another question.
Yes, we do. Sydney writes, I am currently a health science undeclared major. Is that tied to the pre-med pathway, or do I need to do something more?
It's probably very likely tied to the pre-med pathway. That's a great question, Sydney. And what ends up happening is that because pre-medical studies is not a major, when you selected that probably on your application, it put you into that category. If you're concerned or want to double check that, just email me and I can do the look behind the scenes and see if that's actually the case. Obviously, a health science undeclared is not a major, and so that's a topic that you'll want to talk with an academic advisor either at orientation and moving onward to help you facilitate selecting something to go along with that path. Great question.
We have another question. So how do we find our specific advisors? I declared a cellular biology degree and am a transfer student.
Excellent. That's a great question. So that's actually, if you're an admitted student at Boise State University, all that information populates on your student center. What I can share with you is that there may be someone listed. Typically with biology, the person that's listed for that is Clay Cox. And depending on where you are in your career, you might also see Maribel Saciato. And those are 2 individuals that work with biology specifically. But your student center often alludes to that. We always make sure that there's an advisor listed. That said, when you reach out to that person, there might be a chance that they might encourage you to seek one of the other advisors out. The example I can give you is with our office. So I'm not the only pre-health advisor in our office. Ian does some of that. I do. And then of course, some of my other colleagues advise for those areas as well. But I'm kind of listed as the first person. And then I kind of reach out to the student, and if a student reaches out to me, I kind of find out what you're interested in studying or which pathway you are and hook you up with the right person. So if in doubt, you can always email our office and we can locate who your advisor would be. With the pathways, what we try and do is we have you listed as your major advisor, and then we list a secondary advisor, somebody who would be assisting you with those pathways. So oftentimes I'm listed right below the major advisor like Clay.
Okay, our next question. I have a similar question to Sydney's. I plan to be a health science undeclared and plan on going into nursing. How is this tied to a pre-med pathway? I'll just respond to this real quick, Margaret. You'll probably want to go visit with our nursing advising Zoom group, and I'm going to private message you the link right now so you can hop onto that one.
Thank you, Mary. So while we're waiting for some more questions to come up, what I can share with you is, so in our office, we provide lots of different services for those pre-health pathways. One of those services is academic advising, where we're helping you determine what schools you want to go to and what programs you're wanting to apply for and what prerequisite or academic requirements are required for you. That's one part of it. The second part of it is that there's a lot of different complexities or layers to applying to one of these pre-health pathways. To wanting to go to medical school or wanting to go to PA school or whatever it is, you do have some expectations set before you besides the academic requirements. You have some GPA expectations, and so we do encourage students to have a healthy GPA. For me, that's usually more A's than B's. more B's than C's and very few C's, if any. I think that also what's important is to be aware that I said the actual C letter. You can actually get it, get a C and still go to medical school. I know, surprising. And then you're also going to have a test you're going to have to take for a lot of these programs where you're going to have to study some content. Those prerequisite courses are often the content that you need for those things. And in turn with that, you're going to also be expected to go out and kind of be a well-rounded candidate. I use the word core competencies a lot with students, especially because the medical community does. They expect students to have service orientation, social skills, cultural competency, ethical responsibilities to others and self. They also expect you to be dependable and reliable. And in my experience, I just don't think that students learn that in a textbook. I think students have to go out and have experiences, and that they have to be well-rounded, and that they need to think about why am I wanting to be a doctor, and how do I know that? How can I identify that with my experiences? So a strong candidate, a strong applicant should go out and volunteer in their community. Many of these health fields are what we consider service oriented and have those expectations, whether it's PT school or med school. Students need to go out and volunteer. And I do want it to be very clear, volunteerism doesn't have to be just medically related. In fact, it probably shouldn't just be medically related, because you want to be a well-rounded person. And so I want students to choose activities that they enjoy. I had one student who's in medical school right now who walked dogs for the Humane Society. And I had another student who opted to work for the Ronald McDonald House and made cookies and gave out stuffies for the families. I've had others be orderlies in the hospital, and some who have no patient experience whatsoever have opted for that medical volunteerism and maybe done something with the Friendship Clinic here in town or the Garden City Clinic. But it's not just like limited to just the medical field, it's any type of volunteerism. And we help get you kind of interactive with those things. We help support you and bring you in and say, gosh, you know, we have a student organization called the Future Physicians Club, and we have a pre-dental club, and we have a veterinarian society, and there's lots of different organizations you can get engaged in on campus. There's an expectation that you'll also be a leader, that you understand that many of the roles played in a professional school pathway are leaders in our healthcare community. They're also leaders in our community. I know who my physician is, and I've run into him in the grocery store before. Luckily, I never go, hey, can you look at this? But I do know who they are, and I appreciate when I see them in my community doing great things. Research plays a pretty big role when it comes to like things like medicine and advancing, and so having some understanding of those things is really key. I also feel that it's really important for students to think about patient exposure. You're going into these fields because you're going to interact with patients. You probably should know what that's like. I always use the story of, gosh, you know, we have to love our family members. So when they're sick, we have more empathy for them because we're like, okay, they're our family member, we better love them. But can we have empathy for another person? Can we take care of a stranger, even though we might be at risk to be sick? And then I also think about the observation piece. You know, we have an idea in our head about what a medicine is, what physicians are, or what dentists are, or any of those things. But if we haven't really seen it in action and we haven't observed someone's day in the life of what they are, we can't really for certain say that that's what we really want to do. And so all of those things are expectations that these professional schools would expect you to do. And what I think is really important is that it's kind of like build your own adventure. This is just a framework of topics and categories I use, but I want students to understand that the medical schools and the programs that you're applying to would expect you to tell them why you chose the activities you chose. And you can't just say, well, I chose it because you told me to, or I chose it because they make me look good. You need to kind of get out of that framework and think of, gosh, you know, well, why would I do this? And And why do I enjoy it? And you should do things you enjoy. You should also do some things that might be you wouldn't have initially chosen to take yourself outside the box, but go from there. So there was also a question about how to join clubs or get in contact with them. So starting this summer, we're kicking over to a new app system. It'll be called Engage. But if you go out to our Boise State website and you look up student organizations, there is what we call OrgSync. And all of those clubs and organizations I mentioned are on them. And as a student, you'll be able to become members. The Future Physician Club doesn't have a requirement to becoming a member if you're looking at medical. You just have to reach out to them as a student and say, I'm really interested in getting involved in this. And they send you the little link so that you can get the feedback. But as a pre-health pathway, I send out emails of anything future physicians are looking at. I would also share, if you are looking at medicine, Future Physicians Club for Boise State students has an Instagram site, and they're doing some really cool things right now. They're putting out video shout outs during the COVID-19 pandemic, and it's beautiful. They're wonderful videos about tips that they're doing to get through being having to be isolated and how they're connecting with the future physician community. So the club is pretty vibrant, and that's kind of a cool thing. So you can certainly find that information, engage in there through that.
I'm not sure if I'm not seeing any additional questions. We still have about 10 minutes, and so I'm not sure, Erin, if you wanted to utilize this time for any private messages that students may have specific to them, or if you wanted to use that time.
We can certainly do that. While I'm waiting for some of that information or some of those questions to come my way, I would also share with you that our office has a lot of different programming in terms of workshops and programming and sessions. So we do things like mock mini medical interviews, which we open up to all graduate programs because what's called a mini medical interview happens at multiple places. It doesn't just happen with medical schools. We talk about the personal statement and how to write one of those. We talk about we do some workshops and programming around what makes you a successful and competitive applicant. We go into a little bit more detail with that. We also provide some really great opportunities for interview and preparation, mentorship. We also just this last week hosted our what we call a pre-med and pre-dental panel, where we had 3 individuals from each of those pathways who've been successfully accepted into their programs talk about the application process from a student perspective, which I think is super, super useful. Every student that attends that always values the information, and the individuals usually share their email addresses and connect and mentor those students who have questions. We also do a lot of information from schools and programs. So schools like University of Washington, Utah, because we have a lot of Idaho residents at our institution, often come and do speak. We've had PNW, we've had ISU, and we've had lots of different programs from all over the nation come and talk to our students and give them some really great information. So those are services that we provide through our office. And then with Ian, he's a peer advisor, and he's gonna go ahead and post his email address that you can email him and ask him some questions about the student perspective. What's it like to come to Boise State University and be a member of the College of Health Science? But what I could share with you is that I'm also available for that. I will put that slide back up so that you can see it. With my contact information. And then again, I really, really encourage students to check out our websites. If anything, if you lose my contact information, it's readily available out there. Mary's information is readily available out there. So if you have any questions, I think that would be a great place for you to go.
I will also add too that we are really excited to hopefully be seeing you for orientation in this summer. Just to give you a little heads up, before the day, or you will not actually be having an advising appointment on the day of registration. We're going to hopefully be having those conversations and meetings with you before the day of registration through either a Zoom appointment or whatnot. But we're really looking forward to welcoming you to Boise State.